Hello, and welcome back to another video on this channel and another live stream in the morning. Today, as you can see, I am very happy. I'm very pleased to be here because, like I've said in my verse of the day video, which hasn't been released yet, Chelsea won, Tottenham 0. I was going to say Chelsea won, but yeah, they did, and also by 1 goal. Great day, great to be alive, great day as a Chelsea fan. Absolutely bopping off here. Absolutely amazing day. Went out for a walk, as I've said, for verse of the day. Went to a place called Cornwall Street Park. I'm going to edit this video after I release this, after I finish this stream, and we'll have that on the channel for you to watch. I see someone just started joining in the video. I see you there, one person watching. I hope you're doing good. I hope it's a good day for you wherever you are, whether it's morning or night. And I hope all things are good for you. So before I start discussing the conceptual arguments of the infinity, the plan for today, like always, is to first discuss my content, talk about the conceptual arguments I want to raise. And then after that, I would have a bit of a break and then return for Q&A. So that's kind of the idea, the plan for today. If you have any questions for me, just put them in the comments right now, and well, I would just answer them during the Q&A time. Or if I see anything which is prescient or kind of like on topic to what I am currently doing, then I would just answer it as I go. So I want to first apologize that I do not have slides for today's video. And the reason for that is because, well, I was quite busy this week, and also I just kind of didn't have the opportunity to really sit down and create slides for today's live stream. However, I don't think that would get in the way too much of what we're trying to achieve in this video. Let me get my charging cable. My laptop's a bit low on battery right now, but essentially the plan is that I will go through my conceptual arguments and then discuss and go to the Q&A. So with that out of the way, and with the admin stuff a bit out of the way, I will hopefully get into the arguments, which I will be doing right now. I just took a shower, so my hair is a bit messy, but never mind that. So today there's mainly 3 conceptual arguments that I would like to raise. And the first one is an argument for magnitude. It's an argument from the nature of, from a few of the descriptions or our understanding of the world around us, which points towards the impossibility or the difficulty of actualizing an actually infinite series in reality. I know saying actualizing an actually infinite series in reality is an absolute mouthful. So, well, it is a bit of a mess, but whatever. I guess I don't have much choice here. And another argument that I would be raising is indeed the nature of axioms. I'll be talking about, well, how do axioms work and the interaction between a consistent system or axiomatic system, and whether they need to be realized in reality. And finally, I will be discussing an argument about sets, function notation and nature of functions. And I hope you can still hear me. I'm going to close the blinds here because I know the background lighting isn't the best from that angle. Oh, 2 people on now. Someone else joined the stream to watch. Glad to see you here. Hope you're having a great day. I hope too that you're enjoying this video so far. And just as a quick update, there is going to be a Q&A at the very end of the video. So if you have any questions, make sure you either ask them here if you have to leave early, or just wait till the end. I hope you will enjoy that. So let's get into our argument for magnitude. So essentially our argument from magnitude is an a posteriori argument from a few observations about the universe around us. And it's very clear, or I want to make it very precise, that these arguments I'm raising here should not be seen as mathematical arguments. Rather, there should be physical observations. And it's kind of this physical observation instead of mathematical arguments. Let me clean the camera a bit. There's a bit of dirt on top of it. Hopefully it doesn't distract you too much. But essentially, the reason why I'm using this magnitudinal argument from the physical world instead of mathematical arguments is because if I was going to say that I'm using mathematical arguments, there might be some sense of circularity. So these arguments here are physical of nature, and from our understanding of the physical nature, we can say that they aren't too bad, and that there are physical problems with the actual infinity and not a mathematical problem. So that is an important distinction. The one true Chaz, I hope you're doing great. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I hope to be able to interact with you a little later on in the stream during the Q&A. So basically, my argument can be summarized as follows. We start off with a few premises and say that if these premises are true, there is then a bit of a difficulty, or there is some difficulty with it being actualized in reality. And if possible, let me try to copy and paste these into a box or a banner where I can show these to you. Okay, it completely goes over the word count. So, well, I guess I'll have to just read them out to you, and hopefully you can understand them. So I have 6 premises that I raised in this argument from magnitude to demonstrate that there are problems with the actual infinity, physically and not mathematically. So number 1, magnitude in the universe is objective. Number 2, magnitude in the universe is diverse. Number 3, magnitude of objects can be arranged via their sizes in the following relationships. X is smaller than y, x is larger than y, or x is the same size as y, where x and y represent different variables of matter, of I don't know how else you'll call it, of matter, of relationship, of time, of space. These different physical magnitudes can be seen as x or y. And then 4, magnitude increase can be denoted simply by addition. So if you have like 2 fish and then you change it to 3 fish, you've added 1 fish. The magnitude has increased by addition. And of course, you can increase this by other forms, perhaps via multiplication. However, multiplication is just an extra or an extra add-on to the nature of the, simple mathematics and like addition. So for example, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4 is addition, but that can also be seen as a multiplication by 1 times 4. So it's the simplest state of mathematics magnitude can be changed by addition. And number 5 is just the opposite of it, which is subtraction. Magnitude can decrease via subtraction. And from 6, and in 6, which comes from 4 and 5, is that, well, if magnitude increase is denoted by addition, then any magnitude plus any number would lead to a larger number than the original number you have. So you could say x plus y is greater than x, or x minus y would be smaller than x, assuming that y is a positive integer or positive magnitude. In the chat, I see thank you, Jesus, elbow cough. I'm sorry, the emojis don't show up in my Streamlab, but well, I hope you're having a good day. Thank you, Jesus. And thank you, Jesus, for you guys being here and this beautiful day we have today. So, well, what I'm trying to say is that if these 6 premises are correct, then it follows that there are significant problems with the actual infinity in reality, because as you've known and as I have developed in the previous video, when you take into account actual infinite arithmetic, we see that x Aleph null, or any Aleph number plus a finite integer, would always be Aleph null. So it would violate observation 6. And you might say, well, I'm just begging the question, and raise the common arguments that people raise against Hilbert's Hotel. The idea that Hilbert's Hotel just begs the question against actual infinity. However, this is not the case, because as I've said before, the arguments used here are not mathematical, but physical in nature. So I'm saying that these 6 observations are physically, well, not proven, but demonstrated and experienced, and hence weird or opposing propositions like the transfinite arithmetic would go against this set of physical observations. And hence this argument would also explain why Hilbert's Hotel and my other paradox, the man with infinite knowledge, is not indeed contradictory, or not indeed begging the question against transfinite arithmetic. So with that in mind, let us defend each of these 6 premises to see whether they are whole, if they stand, because if they stand, then it demonstrates that transfinite arithmetic has some problems with being realized in reality. So let's turn to premise 1. Magnitude in the universe is objective. And I think this is quite simple. There is objective nature to magnitude. While you might be able to choose or arbitrarily or subjectively choose different units to describe the data, fundamentally, they are indeed all the same. For example, my phone and my calculator have objective sizes. This, like, to anyone who observes this phone, it would be, I don't know, how long is this? I don't have my, actually I do have my ruler, is around 15 centimeters by 8 centimeters. And no matter how you look at it, and you change it to inches or millimeters, like the size of it is objective. It doesn't change, or there is some definite nature to magnitude in the universe. And the second one is magnitude in the universe are diverse. And what I mean by that is that magnitude is very different. There are small magnitudes, large magnitudes, like the idea that my hand is smaller than my phone, or my hand is smaller than my desktop, or my desktop is smaller than my house. And these things are they could be compared and are diverse. Now, premise 3 is that magnitude of objects can be arranged via their sizes in the following relationships. X is greater than y, y is greater than x, or x equals y. And that should be quite simple. And the reason for this is because, well, there are indeed different sizes, and you can order them via cardinality, because, as you know, cardinality is indeed the abstraction of form and order. So as you can see, you can have these numbers or numerical attributes which can be well ordered via size or via different relationships. So we can see that premise 3 is correct as well. Premise 4 and premise 5, magnitude can increase or decrease based on addition and subtraction. That I think is quite clear. Assume I have this ruler, and this ruler is 15 centimeters, and I add onto it another 15 centimeters here. By addition, I get 30 centimeters. If I take it away, so by subtraction, I get 15 centimeters. So you can see that premise 4 and premise 5 seem to be true. There's an eyelash in my eyes. That's a bit annoying, but whatever. Premise 6 is then, which says, well, x plus y is greater than x, and x minus y is smaller than x, and x equals x or y equals y, law of identity. So I think this is also undeniable. If you have an increase in magnitude, it does seem to grow increasingly, or we seem to observe premise 6 as well. So from it, it seems to follow that transfinite arithmetic does have problems with the physical observations that we see. And this is not begging the question against the actual infinity. Rather, it is just physical problems with the actual infinity in reality. So I hope premise 1 of the argument, or well, argument 1 from magnitude makes sense. And now the second argument that I want to raise is the idea of, well, the nature of axioms. And I don't want to discuss too much about the nature of axioms here, because it can get quite, well, deep and difficult here. But I would like to direct you to a book called Foundations of Set Theory, if you want to know. Foundations of Set Theory, I think, by Zermelo Fraenkel, Bar-Hillel, and a few other people. Bar-Hillel, I think that's how you pronunciate it. But it's a mix of different people, and they talk about the nature of the actual infinity over there. So with that in mind, let us discuss the second idea, or the second argument, which is, well, nature of axioms. And the nature of axioms is essentially the idea that, well, axioms do not have the same burden as things in reality. So while in order for something to exist, it has to exist in or at least for something to physically exist, it has to be seen in reality. Axioms do not talk about physical reality, rather talk about logical space. And this idea of logical space is essentially created or described by Wittgenstein in his book Tractatus, and basically says, well, instead of having things which exist in reality, there exists a logical space which is more encompassing and has more things which exist. And this is the idea that, well, things which, while may not be realized in reality. Possible worlds, for example, other situations, other states of affairs which may not be seen in reality exist in this logical realm. And it's very important to differentiate between logical realm and Platonism, because these forms are conceptual. Instead of having a Platonic nature, they are dependent on, well, concept of possibility and modality, which is slightly different from a Platonic approach to the forms. So there's some separation between Platonism and the idea of logical space. But what I'm trying to say is that axioms, when consistent and when are not contradictory, can develop systems which fit into logical space. For example, set theory. While you don't necessarily see set theory in reality, although definitely you can create sets using set theory and impose these sets on reality, you don't see the set theory or mathematical natures themselves intrinsically seen in reality, because while mathematics is more of a description of reality, and although mathematical relationships are necessary, these relationships are only necessary, or they are necessary, and it's an extension from their necessity that they describe things in reality. So we can see that there's a slight separation between logic and maths and reality, although logic and maths normally does indeed reflect or apply to the physical world we see around us. But essentially what I'm trying to say here is that there is a separation between logical space and mathematical and physical reality. Things can exist in logical space, but not exist in physical reality. And what I'm trying to argue here is that transfinite arithmetic is indeed one such thing. While it is definitely possible that transfinite arithmetic exists and that it is a consistent, or at least a very powerful and non-contradictory system, it cannot actualize in reality, not because it's logically impossible, but because there are problems in reality and physical issues with the actual infinite, which makes it difficult for it to be actualized in reality. So there's a separation between the physical world and logical space, which, while transfinite arithmetic may exist in logical space, does not need to exist in reality. So that would be seen as my second argument here, which is indeed an argument from the nature of axioms. So if you want me to discuss the nature of axioms more, just ask me more to discuss this in the Q&A section. I don't want to make it too long here because I know some people don't like maths too much and will not want me to just discuss set theory for another half an hour or something like that. And anyways, I do discuss set theory in further depth in a previous stream, which is called, what is that previous stream called? It was called Zermelo Fraenkel Set Theory and the Infinity. So if you want to know more about set theory, you can discuss it. You can watch that stream there. But finally, what I would like to discuss is the nature of function graphs. And the nature of function graphs is kind of where Cantor started off and where he kind of got his understanding of transfinite numbers. And the reason why I say that is because transfinite numbers are indeed seen, or are indeed described, or you come closest to the transfinite and the different natures of infinity when you do discuss. Blimey, I have so many random papers in my drawer that I'm trying to get to draw something for you as a chart. But essentially what I'm saying is that function graphs are the closest we get to, what do you call it, to the actual infinity and the natures of infinity. So basically, I have the paper here. Let me show you the paper. So, function graphs look like this, right? There's something like this. Function graphs. This thing is actually infinite. There's actually infinite to here, actually infinite all around us. And essentially what I'm trying to say here is that on a function graph, the function graph is a conceptual representation of different relationships, different correlations. For example, you'll have the x and the y-axis. That could literally be anything. Y can be replaced with, I don't know, your different variables and stuff like that. But assume you have a line through the function graph and you have two lines through the graph. What you soon see is that the nature of the actual infinite is indeed embodied by these lines, because you can see that although the length of this line is indeed longer than the length of this line, the hypotenuse is longer than one of the legs. That is via algebra. I could even demonstrate this by my, my ruler right next to me. Which side is the 0? I have my ruler. This side is Okay, the line's not straight at all, but let's assume that's a line. It's around 10 centimeters long, and this one's around, and that's just around 7.5. So you can see that's the 10 centimeters and that's 7.5. But despite the difference in this, if you look at this as centimeters, this one should be larger than this. However, if you look at the number of points, you see that every single point on the 10 centimeter line can be put into one-to-one correspondence with the 7.5 meter line, or centimeter line. So what we do see here is that, well, a subset of a set can be seen as equinumerous to the actual set itself. So we can see a bit of a nature of the actual infinity realized here, and that when you think of the totality of the function graph, we indeed think that it is best connoted or seen with the actual infinity. And well, you might say, well, how is this possible? Because we definitely see that the function graph itself here is potentially infinite. But I would like to say that conceptually, this graph in any space is actually infinite instead of potentially infinite. The reason for that is because you could apply Zeno's paradox to it. You can create a Z series in every part of the function graph, because for every place in the function graph, there could almost be an infinite number of inputs and an infinite number of additions. You can have all the real numbers being infinite, and you could have various sets or various numbers of inputs, which lead to various numbers of outputs, because there's a distinction, or there is a relationship between the range of something and the range in something and the domain of something. That means that the domain is a set, the inputs are a set, the range of outputs is also a set as well. So we can see that if there's an infinite number of inputs, which is indeed the case because there could be a conceptually infinite amount of inputs given any area on the line, there could also be an actually infinite number of outputs. So we can see that every area on the function graph is actually infinite. So while you may say that, well, the function graph is indeed an actually infinite made up of finite composites, that is not the case, because we can see that it's actually an actually infinite graph made out of actually infinite composites. Whereas when we realize it in reality, or when we write it out, what we do see is that we actually have limited finite differentiations in reality. So that while we can make conceptual impositions onto the graph, what we do see is a finite graph, because we do not draw an actually infinite graph. So there is once again a distinction between the actual infinite and the finite infinite, the conceptual nature of the function graph and the physical nature of the function graph. So there is once again a difference here. So this difference, or this separation, does seem to demonstrate that there are some problems with an actual infinity. So we have indeed gone past my 3 arguments against conceptual arguments discussing the paradoxes and our overall arguments against actual infinity. But before I end this and go to Q&A section, I'd like to just discuss how this applies to us and how this applies to the different paradoxes. So I'll first like to talk about the argument from magnitude, because I think that argument from magnitude best applies to the Hilbert-Zotel and the man of infinite knowledge paradoxes, because both of these argue from transfinite arithmetic or finite arithmetic to demonstrate that there is some problem with transfinite arithmetic from a physical nature and not a mathematical nature. So we see that there's a separation here, which I hope is helpful and a good distinction for you. So I think that this discussion here is quite interesting, and that it applies most commonly to both the man of infinite knowledge and the actual infinite, and the Hilbert-Zotel paradox. So it's most applicable to those 2 arguments and discussions. And the other ones about the function graph and the nature of axioms just add as supplementary details about my conceptual arguments and my arguments against an actual infinity, and that it's not necessary that the actual infinity has to be applied to reality, even though there might be some similarities. So with that out of the way, I'd like to open this up to Q&A for a bit and interact with you guys. Just like always, you can always just ask me any questions you want. I'll be happy to answer these questions for you. And yeah, I hope to see you in a bit. But before that, let me take a bit of a break. I've added a bit of an intermission session for me so that you guys could take a break a bit as well. you guys could get a drink of water for something that's around 2 or 3 minutes long. I could drink some water. I could relax my voice a bit so it's not too strange. And I'll see you after the break. See you in a bit, guys. So we're back here for a Q&A section. So if you have any questions for me, just let me know in the comments. I will get back to them. I'll get to them and answer your questions. It could be about absolutely anything about what we've just discussed, about the conceptual arguments against infinity, or it could be about that nature of the infinity, paradoxes of the infinity, and different ideas. The one true Chaz, the intermission is a pretty good idea. Yes, it is a pretty good idea, but I think some people mistook it for the end of the stream and 2 people just left watching it. But, well, I think it is indeed quite a good idea. And while 2 people did disappear, it definitely is, it does allow us to relax a bit and allow us to have a bit of a breath, I guess, after talking straight for like around 20 odd minutes. It's quite good to have a bit of a relaxation at the end of it. My drawer isn't closing quite well, so that's a bit of an issue here. But I just found my other calculator. It's a bit interesting. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. And why isn't my drawer closing? That's a bit dodgy. Okay, so what is this new begging the question fallacy stuff? So this begging the question is basically a term used to describe circular reasoning. And essentially circular reasoning is the idea that you're presupposing what you're trying to conclude. So a good example of this would be, well, instead of like arguing for, well, imagine you're arguing for the existence of God, or perhaps the best example of this would be, well, perhaps you're trying to argue for the truth of the Bible, and you say, well, the Bible is true. Why? Because the Bible says it's true. And why do you trust the Bible? Well, because the Bible is true. So you can see that you're arguing currently in a bit of a circle. The truth of your argument or the conclusion of your argument is assumed in one of your premises, and that is begging the question, or in other words, called circular reasoning. So hope that explains what this begging the question fallacy is. But it's essentially assuming that a position is either correct or wrong in order to conclude that the position is either correct or wrong. So it's like, well, you presuppose the truth of the statement you're trying to prove, which is fallacious. So that is essentially begging the question. I hope that helps. And if I didn't explain it quite clearly, I understand, just let me know and I'll answer it or discuss it again in more depth. Hey, Tressian, I hope you're doing well. I'm glad you can make it to the stream. I'm currently talking about the actual infinity, but we've just finished talking about that. We are currently talking about doing some Q&A. So appeal to authority, yes, that is another fallacy. It's basically the idea that you're, instead of arguing for something, and I want to make it very clear that these fallacies are not always fallacious and they're not always wrong. For example, there are sometimes when appeal to authority is helpful, but the problem where it comes to it is because when you appeal to the authority, not to back your claim, but to make it itself an argument. And an example of this would be, well, an example of an appeal to authority which is fallacious would be perhaps, well, the Bible is true because my pastor says so. And that would be a fallacious appeal to authority. However, if you're saying, well, what's another example? What's another good example? Oh, coronavirus is getting better in Hong Kong because the statistics are getting low, and these statistics came from the Hong Kong Health Department or something like that. That would not be a fallacious appeal to authority because, well, the Hong Kong Health Department is indeed a reliable source, and it does back up the claim that you're making via evidence, and that would not be a fallacious appeal to authority. So when you're appealing to something just because it's a seemingly authoritative person, that would be an appeal to authority. Not, but then if we use the same thing and we turn to something else, perhaps and we using it as evidence or an example, then that would not be an appeal to authority. So I hope that helps. I'm currently, yeah. I hope that helps. Oh, I'm glad to see 3 people back on the stream again, because just now it went down to 1, and then right before the Q&A while I had my intermission on, so I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's left now. But now there's more people back on the stream to ask me questions and stuff like that. So I'm very happy for you guys to be here. I'd like to thank you once again for being here. It is indeed a good honor, a huge privilege of mine to be here, and it is a great honor to be here. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And Reasonable Faith's new video. No, I actually haven't seen Reasonable Faith's new video. If that's the case, actually, what I think I should do is we can watch it together if you want. I could go check it out. We could check it out with you right now. Let me find a new tab. I hope I don't get demonetized by Reasonable Faith. I'm on a group with him, so I don't think I'm going to get demonetized really badly. But okay, Reasonable Faith. Reasonable Faith. Is this the correct one? Wait a sec, let me share the screen with you. I forgot to share screen. Share screen, Chrome tab, Reasonable Faith. Is it here? Is it this one you're talking about? There's two Reasonable Faiths, you see. There's this one, and I think there's another one as well. I think there's 2 Reasonable Faith channels. Now you get to see all the things I watch. But oh yeah, now that we're here, check out the Philosopher Cave. He's coming on my channel in a few days' time. Hopefully that is indeed helpful. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, that's I guess kind of what I'm trying to say. Hopefully that video is helpful, where we discuss natural moral law and stuff like that. But essentially that is kind of what we're doing. I actually can't find Reasonable Faith. I'm pretty sure I had somewhere. Let me check my channel. View your channel. Okay, I actually don't have it. Ah, Jeremy. Hey, how are you? I'm glad you're here. For those who don't know, Jeremy is my youth group leader, and I need to stop screen share. Wait, how do I do this? Remove from screen. Yep. So basically, that is, I think the limitations actually. Okay, it seemed not proven that I got beyond our reason. Yeah, seemed not proven that I got beyond our reason could not exist. I'll see you later today. Oh my gosh, my brain's actually gone absolutely. I think I completely fried my brain right now. But essentially, I think it is assumed not proven that a God beyond our reason could not exist, and therefore we can. Yeah, I think that is a good, interesting thing. It is indeed quite interesting, and I hope it is quite helpful. And essentially, I think it is the idea that, well, we cannot just assume that God does not exist, because at the end of the day, God does. And it's possible that God exists, and just because we cannot fully understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or is not fully true. And that is a very important thing when you keep in mind, because a lot of times we cannot expect ourselves to prove absolutely everything, but instead they are just helpful things for our understanding, and it's fully acceptable or fully allowable or permissible that we don't know everything, and we can just accept that as a fact and just move on and carry on. So with that in mind, let us move to the next question, and it's about the Hilbert's Hotel. Yeah, Craig likes using the Hilbert's Hotel a lot. I like the paradox with the man of infinite knowledge a bit more. I really have to find that video. I don't know where it went. It's just absolutely gone. I can't see it for some reason. If you can show it, if you could send the link in the chat, I'll get it to you immediately. But I'll take a look at it. But I definitely think that Hilbert's Hotel is indeed one of the most interesting ways to look at things, and is perhaps one of the safer arguments for the existence of God, or perhaps the easiest ones to understand when talking about the nature of the actual infinity and why it might have some problems in reality. So Hilbert's Hotel is a very helpful tool that you can use. So, Dr. Craig channel. Okay. Dr. Craig. I don't actually know what his Craig channel, Dr. Craig videos. Yep, that one, I think. Videos. Can you hear it? Or I'm not sure. Let me say stop share screen. Share audio. Okay, yep, that shares audio. Kalam physical off. Posted.
Or has it existed from eternity past? If it did have a beginning, this raises a question. Did the universe have a creator? In part 1, we explored this question scientifically. Now let's look at it philosophically. Aristotle believed the universe was eternal in the past, but Al-Ghazali disagreed. He pointed out that if the universe did not have a beginning, then the number of past events in the history of the universe is infinite. But that's a problem, because the existence of an actually infinite number of past events leads to absurdity. It's metaphysically impossible. Why? The mathematician David Hilbert illustrates the problem by imagining a hotel with an infinite number of rooms, all of which are occupied. There's not a single vacancy. Every room in the infinite hotel is full. Now suppose a new guest shows up and asks for a room. The manager says, sure, no problem, then moves the guest who was in room number 1 to room number 2, and the guest who was in room number 2 to room number 3, and so on to infinity. As a result of this shuffling, room number 1 becomes vacant, and the new guest happily checks in, even though all the rooms were already full, and nobody has checked out. And it gets even more absurd. Suppose an infinity of new guests show up at the front desk. No problem, says the manager. Then she moves each person into a room with a number twice that of his own room. So the person who was in room number 1 moves into room number 2. The person who was in 2 moves to 4. The person who was in 3 moves to 6, and so on. Since any number multiplied by 2 is always an even number, all the odd-numbered rooms become vacant, and the infinity of new guests gratefully check in. And yet, before they arrived, all the rooms were already full. It gets even crazier when the guests start to check out. Suppose all the guests in odd-numbered rooms check out. In that case, an infinite number of people have left the hotel. And yet, there are no fewer people in the hotel. But suppose instead, all the guests in rooms numbered 4 and above check out. In that case, only 3 people are left. And yet exactly the same number of people left the hotel this time as when all the odd-numbered guests checked out. Thus, we have a contradiction. We subtract identical quantities from identical quantities and get different answers. These absurdities show that an actually infinite number of things cannot exist in the real world. Here is a second argument Ghazali offers against a past eternal universe. Suppose that for every one orbit...
Okay, so before we continue that, I'll just like to make a few comments about the idea of contradiction. I'll say that while mathematically there's not necessarily a big problem here with the subtraction, I wouldn't say it's a mathematical absurdity that past is actually infinite. I would say, however, that it is a philosophical absurdity that the past is indeed, well, conceptually infinite, or at least the idea that the past is, there is a problem with the idea of well, what should I say? An actually infinite past is a physical problem and less so of a mathematical problem. However, there are definitely issues or restrictions with the mathematical problem of the infinity, which is indeed a separate topic of debate, which I don't really want to go into too depth here, because I think that a lot of times when we look at the system of transfinite arithmetic, it's more of a, it's more of a mathematical system or a mathematical discussion instead of a physical discussion, because there's this separation between an actual infinity in reality and actual infinity in possibility or usage in mathematics. So I think there is quite a big distinction here between the two. However, I do think Hilbert's Hotel does demonstrate the difficulties of it, not necessarily the impossibility of it, because I think that might make it that might be a too strong of a modal claim about it. But I definitely think that there are physical difficulties with the actual infinity, and I hope that helps with the understanding of the Hilbert's Hotel. If you want me to see more of my discussion on it, you can check out my last live stream where I talk about paradoxes. But let's continue listening to it.
Around the Sun, Jupiter completes 2. The longer they orbit, the further Saturn falls behind. Now, what if these 2 planets have always been orbiting the Sun from eternity past? Which has completed the most orbits? Strangely enough, the number of their orbits is exactly the same, infinity. But that seems absurd, for the longer they orbit, the greater the difference becomes. If the universe has always existed, then an infinite series of past events has been formed by adding one event after another. It's like a sequence of dominoes, falling one after another until the last domino, today, is reached. The problem is that the final domino could never fall if an infinite number of dominoes had to fall first. So today could never be reached. But obviously, here we are. It's today. So the number of events leading up to today could not possibly be infinite. The infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature, nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea. What objections might be raised to these arguments?
Okay, so I think that is basically it for this video. I don't think there is much we need to discuss about it. I do think that what we do see here, once again, is a problem, as a conceptual problem of the actual infinity, less so a metaphysical problem of the actual infinity, if you get what I mean. It's a physical problem and not truly a metaphysical. It's well, what am I saying? It's a physical problem and not a mathematical problem that we see with actual infinity. So hopefully that helps. I think it does make quite a lot of sense. It is a good video, though I wouldn't necessarily jump the gun and say, well, transfinite arithmetics are contradictory. I would say that they do raise differences or problems when compared to the hypotheses, the 6 hypotheses that we found in our video about the conceptual nature of reality. So I hope that helps. I hope that improves or contributes to the discussion on the actual infinity and helps you understand it a bit more. If you want to know more about it, or perhaps if you want to discuss it a bit more, feel free to let me know and just ask me any more questions. I'll probably stream for another 15 minutes or something like that before I go finish editing my verse of the day video. Also, if for those who don't know, I'm doing a verse of the day series where I do videos every single day. It's basically an idea or a concept where I try my best to reach out or spread the good news with you guys more, and by spreading the good news, it hopefully helps you draw closer to your relationship with God. Because a lot of the times we forget about God's love and God's greatness in our lives, and instead focus on philosophy or other of these things, which can sometimes be seen as less or not as helpful. And it's very important that we keep our focus on God, and because at the end of the day, our relationship with God is the most important thing. Favorite Bible verse for me, it probably is "To live is Christ and to die is gain," because I mean, I wouldn't say I've gone through a lot or anything like that in my life, but I do think that a lot of times I've gone. I think it's safe to say that I don't want to be the guy who goes around and says I've experienced a lot of suffering and everything like that, but I think that I've experienced a lot of I would say life-changing experiences. I've visited a lot of places. I've visited and seen a lot of Christians and people who really have undergone or suffered through a lot of suffering, pain, and difficulties, and it's through these interactions with them where you really see that, well, the hope of life is not really found in the physical world around us. It's very easy to focus too much on the physical world and forget about the true relationship, the true purpose of life, which is found in Lord Jesus Christ. So I think that this difficulty or this difference between the physical and the spiritual is very important, and that's why I believe "To live is Christ and to die is gain" is my favorite Bible verse, because it really emphasizes the struggle and the beauty at the heart of Christianity, which is life is not going to be easy. Life is not going to be this nice walk in the park for you. It's going to be this difficult, this struggle, this veil of soul making, this area where you're trying to improve yourself. And I don't necessarily agree that all evil is to improve yourself or to help you soulmate, but life is a struggle. Life is that, and I don't want to quote Nietzsche or talk too much about Nietzsche, but there's an idea of life is that which must overcome itself again and again. We must continue and not be dragged down by the sufferings of this life and move on to the future and be emboldened by this message of hope. And hope is very important. It's always very important and always very helpful, I think. And it's something that I like to keep in mind and like to think about. It's because that's indeed at the very end of the day what keeps us human and helps us wake up every morning. It's this idea of hope, not of this world, but of greater things. So I hope that answers the question of my favorite Bible verse. I'd like to know what your favorite Bible verse is. And yeah, I might even do it in my next verse of the day video tomorrow. And also, if there's any places that you want me to see or visit around Hong Kong, let me know. I'll try to get to visit that in my next verse of the day. I just want to let you know that I often don't have time to go do too much of exploration for verse of the day, because at the end of the day, I do have quite a lot of stuff to do sometimes, and I can't necessarily spend all my time visiting these new different places. But hopefully it's sufficient. Hopefully it shows you around new places. I went to Cornwall Street Park today. It was quite interesting. And I hope you've enjoyed it, or at least hope you will enjoy it, because I actually haven't done that yet. Yeah, so essentially that's the idea. So do you have any other questions or anything? I'll love to answer it for you. Ezekiel 23 verse 20. Ezekiel 23 verse 20. What's that? That caught me by a bit of surprise, I dare say. I wouldn't read it out loud, not because I think there's anything wrong with it, but because I think it is indeed quite a nice verse, isn't it? And there she, yeah, whatever. Okay, so Jake, Matthew 16:26. Matthew 16:26. Let me get that up. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? What can one give in exchange for their soul? Let me post that up on the stream yard. Post a comment here and pin that comment. Pin. I can't pin comments. Oh well, whatever. I'll put a banner, create a banner, put this up here, and add banner. Edit this banner, scroll across bottom, save, tick, and show this. Yep. What good is it for one to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Or what can one give in exchange for their soul? That's the truth, you know. At the end of the day, the goal is heaven and nothing else. We have to have the hope of heaven in our lives, turn towards God and not to this world. That's the most important thing, I think, and that's something we all have to strive towards. So, yeah, I do enjoy. I think that is indeed a beautiful verse, and yeah, it's one which I think plays an important role in my life and in all of our lives, and we have to focus. And I think it's very important that we focus on this, that it is of our life, it is of heaven which we need to focus on and not of this world. So any more questions you want to ask me? It could be about anything. Anything's fine, everything's good. It's just nice to be able to interact with you guys in the morning, you know. First thing in the morning, just watch a bit of Chelsea, you know. It's been quite tiring. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't watched much football lately, but you know, it's a good exercise. It's a good experience to be able to come out here and play football and watch it. How's your day? Well, it's been an interesting day. I went to sleep last night at 3. Actually, no, I went to sleep last night at 11:30, woke up at 3 a.m. to watch Chelsea with my friends. They came over to my place to watch Chelsea from 3 to 4. Well, it was a 1-0 victory, it's quite a dominant performance from Chelsea. However, I would have to say we didn't necessarily fight the most or score the most goals or anything like that. But we definitely did do quite a good job. I think we dominated the match really well. We had a very secure control over the match, and it was definitely a very good performance. So it was a great way to start off the day. And as you know, I went off after watching the match to film something. The sky was still quite dark, but got out there, filmed verse for the day in the morning, and that was a great experience as well. It was very relaxing, very calm, and it's nice going out to Hong Kong in the morning because, well, you know, when you're out in the morning, you always see some very funny stuff. There was this woman singing some random songs in the park while I was filming, and a lot of these different things, right? So there's this huge variety of different stuff we talk about and we experience when we go out early in the morning. So it was a great morning. And yes, I am talking about soccer. I don't play American football. I do play a bit of rugby and a bit of soccer. I'm a goalkeeper for my school team and for Hong Kong Football Club. It's a good experience. It is definitely it's a good thing to be doing, I guess, soccer. But I haven't played in ages because, you know, football pitch have been closed in Hong Kong, and it's been quite difficult to get everyone out together because of the social distancing measures and stuff like that. So hopefully it gets better when we get back to school. But yeah, it's hopefully good. Are you watching the Super Bowl this Sunday? I mean, if there is some live stream or somewhere where I can get it for free, I'll check it out. But I mean, I'm not too. I hate to disappoint, but I'm not as extreme or a great fan of American football. I don't watch too much American football. I know a bit about it, but I wouldn't say I'm any big fan of it. So no, I probably wouldn't be watching the Super Bowl unless I find some live stream or a few of my friends have interest or a few of my friends want me to go watch the match. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want me to do a stream of that and if I could get hold of it, I wouldn't mind doing it. But I just don't know how I could possibly get a hold of the Super Bowl and whether that's even possible. So I mean, it might be quite difficult for me to get hold of that video. So I'm assuming you guys are all in America, right? So if you guys, because you're using the soccer instead of football, so yeah, I think you guys are probably more American than British, or yeah. So I hope the theological significance of the Super Bowl. Well, who knows? I think I might be able to make something out of it, but no. To be honest, I think that I like to use this opportunity to basically perhaps talk about a few things. You know, it's that stories, and I have to say I'm quite a big fan of Jordan B Peterson, and you know he has a bit of he has a bit of, what do we call it, a bit of a bad rep among some people. But I do think he has quite a lot of sense and makes quite a lot of sense when he discusses stuff. And what I want to say is that there is a structure, a hierarchical structure of truth, or a system of truth behind stories. There's first the truth, or the historical truth, which is what exactly happened on these situations. Like the Normandy was stormed in 1945. That's a historical truth. There's also a metaphorical truth, an allegorical truth, which comes in or is developed from the nature or the existence or the arguments for or from our emotions, from our understanding of human experience, of human suffering, and these things, these different emotions, these different ideas are indeed very important, and they're as important, or if not even more important, than the metaphorical truth, because at the end of the day, what makes humans humans and what makes us some of the most interesting beings and the most profound beings in the universe, or at least on this world, is our idea to understand or get a grasp of these fundamental truths of reality, which go beyond mere, well, how should I say it, mere discussion or mere understanding of facts. Because what makes Dostoevsky, what makes Nietzsche, what makes Tolkien so important, or so integral, or so helpful or applicable to our lives, is not because Lord of the Rings, the universe, actually exists. It's not because of Middle Earth actually existing. The truth of the matter is because the situation which happens, or the information which happens, or the discussions that we have, the truth or the metaphorical truth behind the issues are the most important things in philosophy. And I think that's what we focus on. That's what we should focus on. And we shouldn't always judge things about the historical truth. And of course, the historical truth is important, but the background knowledge, these other ideas, concepts, are just as important. I do like Jordan B. Peterson. I certainly do. He's a smart guy. To be honest, I'm planning to just email him, fingers crossed that he'll come onto this channel for an interview. I've reached out to Erwin Weil, one of the greatest or the best readers of Dostoevsky. I've asked him for an interview, and he says that he's willing to come on the interview, just that there's some technological issues. And I've also asked him whether he would want to come onto this channel and I'll also plan to ask a few other philosophers or other workers of Dostoevsky and other Russian literature writers to come on this channel and discuss Dostoevsky and literature and these things, because I do like the topic of literature. It means a lot to me. It's very important, and I think it has important place in society. Yep, that is indeed the verse which is going on right now on the bottom. It is One True Chaz's favorite verse, and I hope indeed, it would be absolutely amazing to get them on. It's an absolutely great opportunity to be with them, and it'll be an absolute joy, an absolute pleasure to have them on the channel and discuss these things with them, because it'll be a great opportunity to learn more about them and more about these schools of philosophy. So that's definitely true. So I'll probably do one more question and then call it quits for today, because I'll probably plan to edit verse of the day and get it out before class starts. So if you have any other questions, anything you want to let me know about anything, just let me know, and I'll answer that. Probably one more question before the end, before I call it quits today. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this stream so far. Okay. Let me check the King James Version. I do like the King James Version. I mean, you probably know from my knowledge of language, which makes it seem that I talk quite a lot, or I do quite a lot of, a lot of discussion about quite old languages or old English, but yeah, I do enjoy the King James only thing, not the King James only thing. What am I talking about? I'm going absolutely insane. But I do enjoy the discussion of the Bible and of the King James thing and of the King James Version, because the first Bible I read was actually the King James Bible, and it's the thing I grew up with. So, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Yes, I do enjoy that. It does look no. I'm not a King James version only. I've changed from the King James Bible to the New International Version, but I was never a King James version. King James, I can't speak anymore. I was never a King James only person. So I hope you've enjoyed this stream. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm glad that we had the time to catch up at the end of the video to discuss and to talk about different things. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you have a good day. Stay safe. God bless. I think it's at night for you guys, so sleep well because you guys are in America, I think. Have a great one. Wish you all the best and see you soon. See you in the next one and goodbye.